All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go from Langley. Paulo Anacito and Michael Whiting will have the front row. Richie Joplin, Stephen Linder on the second row. Mark Dantuma and Mark Nelson on the third row. Tim St. Jean and Terry James on the fourth. Don Warren and Gil Walk round out the top 10. Jack Wilson starting at 11 next to Kevin Bruner in 12. Gerald Poole in 13th. Clinton Chambers in 14th. Ryan Warp starting at 15th. Jess Chambers in 16th. James Lacey starting at 17th. Robert Eggert in 18th. Mike Burgess in 19th. The rookie John Wyatt starting in 20th. Everybody getting stacked up on the grid. That green car, that is the rookie John Wyatt. This will be the first time we have seen him on track. Paulo Anacito leading the field around for their warm-up laps. 200 laps here tonight, and as I mentioned, some of the drivers, a full tank can go the distance. Some of them going a little bit light on fuel, expecting some caution laps to keep them in the fight. All right, they get the signal. 1 to go. As always, folks, if you have a favorite driver in the field, don't forget to drop into the comments. Let us know who you're cheering for here tonight. All right, here they come. Through 3 and 4. The pace car dives to pit road. And the green flag flies over Langley. Quickly out to the front. Richie falls in through to take second. They try to get 3 wide coming into turn 3. Tim St. Jean already on the attack, and man, they are wheeling him around here tonight. A lot of battling from mid-pack on back. The top 2, a little bit of a breakaway. Michael Whiting now to third as Paulo just set the fastest lap so far. Stephen Linder up on the high side. He's holding Terry James off for the moment. Mark Nelson now underneath Terry James. Mark Nelson now to 8th. He lost some spots in the early going. That outside line was not the place to be. Some of these guys got shuffled back on the start. They have got some work to do. Ryan Warp has not gotten shuffled. He is already up 3 spots. But Gil Walk is running him down. Gil Walk on the move here as well. What a run through 1 and 2 for Gil. Richie Joplin has taken the lead away from Paulo. Paulo in second, Michael Whiting in third. Mark Dantuma now to fourth, and the caution is out for the first time for James Lacey. Hey, good evening, MP. Thank you for the raid. Let's take a look at what happened to James. Right there is James in the 45. As they come through 1 and 2, it looks like he might have gotten a little kiss. Let's take a look down from the chopper. The rookie right behind him. The rookie was on the move here tonight, but just gives him a little tap. It sends him around. Shouldn't be any significant damage. Rookie John Wyatt had already made his way up to 18th. MP, how's your night going, buddy? Richie Joplin out front, followed by Paulo Inesito, Michael Whiting, Mark Dantuma, and Tim St. Jean, the top 5. Don Warren, Stephen Linder, Mark Nelson, Jack Wilson, and Gerald Poole, your top 10. Doing pretty good, bud. Alright, lights are out. They stack back up single file, they stack back up side by side. However, the guys on that outside line definitely don't want to be there. That outside line off the start was slow, and that preferred line down on the bottom through the turns. All right, here we go. Pace car in. Green flag back in the air. Richie quickly clears traffic into turn 1, side by side, back behind. Oh, a couple of cars bounce off the turn 2 exit. Surprised we've only seen a couple of cars get that outside wall so far. Michael Whiting battling his way back into second. Paulo stuck up on the high side. Tim St. Jean is now making his way up into third. Paulo, whoa, he was really hanging it out, coming out of 4. Stephen Linder now on the attack under Paulo. He just cannot get back down. And once you get shuffled up to the outside line here, you're in trouble. Meanwhile, out front, Richie has pulled out to an 0.8 of a second lead over Michael Whiting. Mark Nelson has slipped all the way back to 12th, as Gerald Poole now up into 11th. Robert Eggert also on the move, up 4 spots into 14th. Robert, one of the drivers that did not qualify. James Lacey and John Wyatt. Oh, Wyatt's around. No caution yet. John Wyatt had gone to pit road under the caution, was trying to make some ground up. Just a little too deep into 1, a little too much brake. The back end slips out, but quickly recovers. Talked about it during pre-race. The leader's going to be in lap traffic very quickly tonight. Richie is closing in on John Wyatt. Tim St. Jean, meanwhile, already up into 3rd. Don Warren up 4 spots into 5th. Jack Wilson up 3 spots into 8th. Guild Walk now up into 9th. Ryan Ward has moved up 3 spots into 12th. And as we mentioned, Robert Eggert up 4 spots into 14th. Lap traffic coming into play as Michael Whiting goes by Wyatt. John Wyatt staying up top, letting everybody get by. But Richie Joplin has opened up a 1.5 second lead so far. Ryan Ward now up into 11th as we've got a bit of a battle up here. Gil Blanc, Mark Nelson, Jack Wilson, and now Ryan up in the mix. saw Gill in that first couple of laps really sending it through the field. And now Mark Nelson back up into 9th and Ryan up 6 spots into 10th. Mark Dantuma just knocked the wall down coming out of turn 2. He may have forgot it wasn't a figure 8 tonight. Dantuma did dominate that figure 8 at Slinger Sunday night. If you missed it, you can find it on our YouTube channel, and the shorts for it started coming out today. As Michael Whiting has gotten shuffled to the outside, he is losing ground. Richie continuing to open up the lead over Tim St. Jean in 2nd. Stephen Lindner right there with him in 3rd. Don Warren now up to 4th. Paulo Aniceto currently runs in 5th after having gotten shuffled back. Mark Dantuma now in 6th. Michael Whiting has been shuffled back to 7th. As Gil Guac, oh no, we've got a problem with the lap car. Gil Guac is around, the caution is out. And Ryan Warp is caught up in it. Wow. Only the 2nd caution of the night. Let's take a look and see what happened to that one. Gil Guac and Mark Nelson were battling it out. Last part, John White tried to stay high out of the way. Came down just a little. Gil Guac had nowhere to go. He gets sideways. Guys, check up. Ryan Warp gets shot up into the air. And several drivers are coming in. Michael Whiting, Mark Dantuma, Tim St. Jean, Terry James, Gerald Poole are all in, as well as Gil Guac. Gerald Poole and Gil Guac both showing black flags. Ryan Warp now on his way in. Folks, don't forget, right after the race, the Unicorn will be live, Truckin' USA. Tonight, they will be exploring the new Louisiana DLC for American Truck Sim. And as the lights go out on the pace car, seems like a really good time to get a little loud here at Langley. It's time to crank it up, so when the green flag drops, I'm going to shut up and let you guys crank it up and listen to the horsepower. Alright, pace car is in. The green flag flies. Crank it up, y'all. We'll try that again here in a moment. The caution is back out. Looks like Terry James involved. John Wyatt appears to have gotten caught up as well. He just got stuck nowhere he could go. See if we can take a look down from the chopper. Jerry James there in the 49. Yeah, there was a big checkup on the inside line. Terry had to stop the brakes. John had nowhere to go. Richie Joplin still out front, followed by Don Warren, Stephen Lindner, Mark Nelson, and Paulo Aniceto. Jack Wilson, Kevin Bruner, Clinton Chambers, Mike Burgess, Mark Dantuma now round out the top 10. Mike Burgess now up 10 spots in the 9th. They get the 1 to green. Will they stack up though? Looks like they are going single file on the restart. But we are still going to crank it up. John White did go back to pit road, so he is coming back out. The pace car dives in. The green flag flies. Crank it up, y'all. Richie still has the lead. This is one of those tracks that the green flag flies almost a second the pace car hits pit road. Drivers got to be on their toes on these restarts. Mark Dantuma trying to fight his way back to the front. Clinton Chambers now at 6 spots into 8. Clinton once again just quietly working his way to the front. Don Warren in second, keeping Richie close by. Don up 7 spots into second place. Stephen Lindner in third, Mark Nelson in fourth, Paulo Aniceto now in fifth. Richie was fastest in practice, but Paulo qualified on the pole. Got shuffled high early, lost some ground, is fighting his way back. Kevin Bruner lost some ground in the early going. He is now back up 5 spots into 7th. And looks like Gerald Poole still sitting on pit road. And the caution is out. We've got cars. Wow, we have got a stack up in turn 4. Mark Nelson, Kevin Bruner, Paulo Aniceto all involved. Let's see what caused this one. There in the white car. Looks like battling with Paulo. He got a little bit of a love tap and whoa! Paulo was briefly on his nose. Clinton Chambers got yeeted to the wall. Taking a look down from the chopper. AC Paulo gets the run to the inside, got the better run, just barely taps Mark, but they're so loose, Bruner had nowhere to go. Wow. Ryan Warp has come in. Michael Whiting is also on pit road. Looks like Robert Eggert, John Wyatt, Mark Nelson also came in, as well as Mark D'Antuma, Paulo Inesito, Kevin Bruner. Looks like about half the field has come in. Out of the top three right now, none of those drivers have been to pit road yet. Richie Joplin, Don Warren, Steven Lindner, so far keeping the car clean. The guys that went a little light on fuel are in good shape at the moment. The cautions helping extend that fuel run, but here we go, pace car is in, and the green flag flies again. Richie Joplin quickly clears, now Steven Lindner looking underneath. Gerald Poole on his way out has to stop for a moment to let the field get by. Lindner now to second. Don Warren slips back to third. Tim St. Jean right there on his bumper. Still a lot of side-by-side action back behind. Paulo Inesito making his way. Holy cow! Mark Nelson was sideways. The caution is out. Looks like John Wyatt, James Lacey also caught up. Let's take a look at this one. There's John Wyatt back behind in the green car. Oh, a little bit of contact with Mark going off into three. See if we can get a different angle on that. There's Mark Nelson on the outside. John just gets a better run down into the turn. Mark ends up sideways, but does recover. But that late model has taken a bit of a beating tonight. A few of these late models toward the back that have some damage to them. Jess Chambers, Kevin Bruner, Ryan Warp, Mark D'Antuma, Michael Whiting, and Clinton Chambers all came into pit road. Lights go out on the pace car. Looks like they will go single file this time. And these drivers definitely have their hands full here tonight. Thompson looking a little slick out there as the pace car drops in and the green flag flies again. Richie leads him down. Looks like most of the field is drifting it coming out of the turns. As they get back onto the power, this is one of those tracks, they have to be very gentle with the gas and brake. Too much gas, too much brake, the car can easily snap around on you. Oh, we've got one off in the infield. It was Jack Wilson. He has cleared the racing surface. No caution. See if Jack had any help on this one, or was it just a little too much power? Came down across Paulo's nose. Jack had been making his way up through the field, but man, that is a big setback. Meanwhile, Richie Joplin already back up into lap traffic. We knew it wouldn't take long. Jack still in the lead lap for the moment. Tim St. Jean now at 4, Terry James up to 5th. That big incident coming out of turn 4 collected some of the fastest cars, the guys that have been moving through the field. James Lacey, Robert Eggert appears to be out of the race, as is Mike Burgess. Gerald Poole appears to be slow down on the bottom. Gil Guac is apparently out of the race. Jess Chambers did not start on the grid. He got a late start. Oh, Richie gets into the lap car. The caution is out. And I don't know what the caution is out for. I think the caution may have came out for one of the cars coming off pit road. We had several cars that ducked off pit road just before the caution. That's the only thing I can figure that brought that caution out. Folks, don't forget, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and YouTube. And we are back on track with the YouTube Shorts. They started rolling back out this afternoon after a day off. Clinton Chambers is ducked back into pit road as well. Looks like he's going to get a fresh set of right sides on that car. Most of these drivers all throughout this winter season have been taking right side tires only. I've seen very, very few 4-tire stops. So far, Richie Joplin has been dominating the season and has led every lap here tonight. Somebody better slow him down. They stack back up for the restart. Here we go. Pace car dives to pit road. The green flag flies again. And Richie's going to clear into turn 1 as Don Warren already peeking underneath. Steven Lindner can't quite get there. Mark Dantuma trying to get clear of Michael Whiting down on the bottom. Paulo Aniceto right behind. Kevin Bruner now back up in the top 10 at 9th. Mark Nelson back up into 10th. pull away from Lindner at the moment. Dawn still in third. From about 7th, 8th place on back, a lot of cars with minor to even more damage. The top three right now, probably the only three cars on track that haven't been caught up in anything and seem to still be in one piece. Although it does look like Lindner may have some right side damage. Still looking pretty clean. Mark Dantuma, one that has some damage. Terry James back up into 5th. He's got a little bit of right front damage and a little bit of left rear. Richie Joplin still out front, has led every lap so far. Richie about to be back into line. Whoa! John Wyatt, something happened when the leader caught him. There's John Wyatt coming down into turn 3 as the leader catches up. He just gets on the brakes, tries to move, but snaps loose and ends up in the grass. Joplin still out front, looking back through the field. Kevin Bruner right there on Michael Whiting's bumper. And Mark Dantuma currently 4th, 5th, and 6th. John, your first race with these guys, buddy, it's bound to happen. Whoa, Tim St. Jean just got shuffled out and he is dropping. Move Terry James up into 4th, Dantuma into 5th, Whiting in 6th. Kevin Bruner now back up into 7th as St. Jean slips back to 8th. Paulo now back in 9th. Richie about to be back into lap traffic. Ryan Ward currently at the tail end of the lead lap in 11th. James Lacey in 13th as the leader closing in with Gerald Poole just ahead of him. Lap traffic's about to make Richie very, very busy. I believe Jess Chambers just ducked to pit road. And the caution is back out. And it looks like John Wyatt, the rookie, having some issues getting the car right tonight. Let's see what happened. John has kept coming out trying to get that car back the way. Holy cow. Got very close to tapping another car, but gets on the brakes. And thankfully just avoids bringing out or causing a pileup. Great save by the rookie. And about half the field is just ducked in. Right side tires going on. A lot of cars. All right, lights are back out as they stack back up. Remember, that top three has not come in at all. Fourth place, Kevin Bruner, has not been in for a very long time. And from fifth place on back, most of that group has right sides on the car. All right, pace car dives in. Here they come. Green flag back in the air. And we'll see what all those fresh right side tires back behind can do. Mark Dantuma already neat underneath Kevin Bruner, shoots by. Bruner now stuck on the high side. Paulo's coming underneath. Ryan Warp is already back up in the fight. Ryan now up into sixth. As Bruner cannot find a hole to get back to the bottom. Richie still out front. Lindner right behind. Mark Dantuma now up into fourth, closing in on Don Warren. Richie got a little bobble coming into turn three. Lindner almost got to his bumper. Tim St. Jean is looking underneath Ryan Ward now. That is the battle for seventh. Tim has it. And I think Tim may have taken 4 fresh tires. Just looking at the numbers here, I do believe Tim took 4. That may be huge. He lost some time, but the difference it's making up on track appears to be huge. Wow, look at the drive by Mark Nelson. Mark Nelson just dove to the bottom, put his foot down, and flipped. Ryan Warp is suddenly slipping back. Hey, good evening, Rick. Why aren't you out here, buddy? Richie Joplin still out front. Stephen Lindner in second. Don Warren in third. Mark Dantuma sitting there in fourth. Remember, those top 3 have not been to pit road tonight. Mark Dantuma Ryan Warp, who was moving up just right off that last restart, has slipped all the way back to 11. James Lacey currently in 12th. Jack Wilson still on track in 13th. Looks like Jack is bringing it back in. Seeing a lot of guys ducking down pit road, getting some repairs, and then getting back out on track, trying to pick up any points they can. Stephen Lindner in second is losing ground to the leader. Don Warren sitting in third. Mark Dantuma in fourth, right on Don's bumper. Paulo Anacito back up into fifth. Terry James in sixth. Tim St. Jean in seventh. Mark Nelson and Michael Whiting, though, are closing in. Kevin Bruner has made his way back up into the top 10 and 10. Trying to close the gap on Whiting just ahead. So far this season, Don Warren has been super fast in these late models, and it's showing tonight he's able to hold off Dan Tuma, who has fresher right side tires on the car. Richie Joplin way out front, now has a 9/10 of a second lead. But again, Richie about to pull back into lap traffic. And lap traffic has been exciting for the leaders tonight. Trying to close back up on Dan Tuma at the moment. Don Warren a little bit high into 1 and 2 that time. He may be opening the door. Dan Tuma peaking low. Mark Nelson and Michael Whiting continue to close in on Terry James as well. Thing stays green while Richie has some one lap car ahead as this race goes on. He's likely to reach a point, we talked about it during pre-race, likely to reach a point where he has no clean track ahead. And Tuma has made his way up into third, having passed on Warren. Don now has Paulo on the bumper. Mark now sets his sights on Stephen Lindner, is 1.1 seconds ahead. Lindner has been up in the top 3 most of the night. After starting in 4th, but still has not been able to close the gap on Richie. James Lacey currently in 12th, Jack Wilson in 13th. Jack has had a rough night, another one that heavily damaged, but is staying in the fight. Same for Gerald Poole. John Wyatt staying in the fight. He is up 5 spots now to 15th. Mark Dantuma is closing the gap now on Lindner. Mark Nelson and Michael Whiting also continue to close in on Terry James. Paulo Aniceto still right on the bumper of Don Warren. Multiple battles going on track. And with 70 laps to go, anything could still happen. Richie has that 1.5 second lead, but the lap traffic ahead about to get even heavier. Kevin Brenner trying to close that gap on 10 St. Jean. Tim has been all up and down the running order all night. He has run his way almost to the lead, but currently runs back in 9th place. Mark Nelson and Michael Whiting have closed the gap on Terry James. Now just about 0.8 of a second back. Terry is closing in on Paulo. Now just 0.9 of a second back. And all this lap traffic really starting to have an effect. Richie's lead is even starting to shrink. He is now down under a second as Lindner closes in. And with Mark Dantuma closing in on Steven at the moment, things are going to get even tighter. Ryan Warp currently the last car on the lead lap at 11. You know he's going to try and hold on. But the leader is right on his bumper. But he didn't fight Richie too hard on that one. Mark Dantuma in third, still about 0.9 of a second behind Steven at the moment. Don Warren, Paulo Aniceto still nose to tail. And Terry James now has Mark Nelson right on him. Mark peeks underneath out of 2. Mark Nelson moves up into 6. Terry back into 7th. Michael Whiting was too far back to take advantage. As we mentioned, Richie Joplin, Steven Lindner, and Don Warren have not been to pit road yet tonight. And watching Richie, it does look like that car might be starting to push in the middle of the turn just a little bit. Tire wear may be coming into play for the leader. Whoa, we've got a car around in a stack up on the backstretch. Caution is out. Wow, Jess Chambers, Mark Nelson, Michael Whiting, John White, Terry James, all involved. And now, who's coming in and gonna try and get right side tires again? Let's see what happened. a checkup due to the car around ahead. There's Jack Wilson on the outside. Looks like contact with Mark Nelson. Michael Whiting slides into him. Looking down from the chopper. Oh, Mark slides up, just gets into him. Whiting slams on the brakes, but slides into Mark. And then the stack up on the outside collects several. Richie Joplin, Stephen Linder, the top two, continue to stay out. Don Warren did come in. In fact, everyone from Don Warren back, it looks like, came in under the caution. Yeah, John, there was a small stack up on the backstretch. All right, lights are out on the pace car as everybody gets ready for the restart. Richie Joplin continues to lead, but a lot of fresh tires behind him now. Stack back up as the pace car dives in. Here we go. Green flag back in the air. Richie quickly gets away. Don Warren slides under to take second. Stephen Linder, Paulo Inesito battle for third. Man, it gets tight coming out of turn 4. Mark D'Antuma trying to clear Linder. As they go off into 3, finally does. And the caution is back out for Mark Nelson. Let's see what happened with the Mark Nelson. Mark had been back here battling mid-pack, trying to get back to the front. A bit of a checkup. Ryan just gets right into us. Wow. Ryan gets right into him, and Mark ends up on his roof. Take a look at this from the chopper. Mark right on Tim's bumper. Tim gets just a little checkup. Mark has to look out, and wow. They pile in, just wedge Mark up, and he rolls onto his roof. Richie is still out front with Don Warren, Paulo Inesito, Mark D'Antuma, and Stephen Linder, your top 5. Richie Joplin, Stephen Linder, the only 2 that have not been to pit road. This is going to get interesting. Just over 40 to go when the green flag drops. And it looks like they will go single file. That'll definitely help Richie in those old tires. And here we go. Pace car is in. The green flag flies, and they're back underway at Langley. Richie clears, but Dolan stays right with him. Paulo now in third, Mark in fourth, but here comes Stephen Linder underneath. Wow, what a drive underneath by Linder. Mark Nelson on his way back out. Linder now reclaims fourth. Mark D'Antuma sliding back to fifth as Richie continues to lead, but he can't break away this time. Don Warren staying right there, and Don now has fresher right side tires. That seems to be really helping Richie, still on his original set. Michael Whiting has fought his way back up to sixth. Kevin Bruner has made his way up into seventh at the moment. And trying to get out of pit road under green flag conditions here tonight has been a struggle for the drivers. Ryan Ward currently in 10th, right ahead of the leader. At the moment, only 7 cars left on the lead lap. Well, Paulo has a little bit of a bobble at a turn 2. Linder right to his bumper. Mark D'Antuma and Michael Whiting both right there. Goes to the high side. Looked like Linder tried to peek, but now D'Antuma has a run. Meanwhile, Don Warren is trying to close back up on Richie. And the caution is out. John Wyatt's around on the backstretch. Let's see what brought this one out. There's the rookie, John Wyatt, coming through 1 and 2. We talked about it early on, how easy it is to lose that rear end coming out of the turns here. That was his demonstration. Stephen Linder is ducking back into pit road, as is Ryan Ward. And Linder's going to get tires, as is Ryan. Tim St. Jean gets waved back to the lead lap. Well, things are about to heat up, just about 30 to go. And I think Richie Joplin is the only driver, yep, I can't confirm he's the only driver that hasn't been to pit road, and the only driver still on his original set of tires. Everybody else at minimum has picked up right sides in the last 100 laps. Lights are out as they stack back up and get ready for the restart. Pace car dives in. Green flag flies again. They are back underway. Richie manages to get clear quickly. The battle is on right behind. Paulo Anacito looking for second. Paulo's going to make it. Michael Whiting almost got underneath Don. They had some contact out of 4. Mark Dantuma lurking right behind as here comes Steven Lindner. Steven Lindner now moves up into 5th. Paulo Anacito in second, 8/10 of a second back. Can he run Richie down? 26 laps to go. Steven Lindner that has the freshest tires out there. And man, he is flying. Already peeking underneath Michael Whiting. Couldn't get him on that run. Don Warren drifts up high, coming out of the turn. Whiting couldn't quite get there. Now Lindner is there. Paulo still holding on to second. Whiting is looking for a shot for third, but Lindner right there also looking. Don Warren still holding on to third for the moment. Able to hold off that group behind. Kevin Bruner now up into 7th place. Tim St. Jean in 8th. Still 8 cars on the lead lap. Coming to 20 to go. A lot can still happen here. Richie has opened up a 1.4 second lead as Steven Lindner finally gets the opening. Moves back up into 4th. Now can he run down Don Warren? Richie's lead now 1.5 seconds over Paulo. Steven Lindner with the freshest right sides on him, and he can put that car really low through the turns and still keep that momentum up just a bit. Mark Dantuma still holding on to 5th. Kevin Bruner has just taken 6th from Michael Whiting. And Don Warren gets a run under Paulo. Lindner's going to follow him through. Steven Lindner now back up into 3rd. Don Warren into 2nd. Meanwhile, Richie out front pulls away. Leaders battling through lap traffic as Tim St. Jean in 8th just went back a lap down. And it has been a roller coaster night for Tim tonight. He's been up into the top 3. He slipped to the back and forth run all night long. Richie's lead is getting smaller quickly. Don Warren, Steven Lindner both have fresher tires. and they're closing in. Don now less than a second behind Richie. Lap traffic is ahead. Richie's lead holding at about 1 second at the moment. 9 laps to go. Don Warren, Stephen Linder on the fresher tires, trying to close up for all they got. Mark Dantuman out of 4th. Paulo Aniceto still hanging on in 5th. Kevin Bruner in 6th is closing in on Paulo. Richie's lead still holds at about 9/10 of a second. It is an impressive run considering Richie's the only driver who has not been to pit road, still in his original tires, and holding everybody off for the moment. Here he comes. Richie gets 5 to go at the line. Mark Dantuma still right on Stephen Linder's bumper. Don Warren in 2nd. 4 to go. Don is closing again. The gap now just 7/10 of a second. And here we go, 3 laps to go. We've got a crash behind. The caution is out. We will go to a green-white checker. Well, that was unexpected. Looks like Stephen Linder and Michael Whiting involved. Did Don get loose? Linder checks up. Dantuma gets into him. Looking down from the chopper to see was there any contact. Oh, just a little bit. He backs off to let Don save it. Mark didn't know and had nowhere to go. That incident did allow Kevin Bruner to slip up into the top 5. Paulo Aniceto now to 4th, Dantuma in 3rd, Don Warren in 2nd, and Richie Joplin has the lead still. As Tim St. Jean gets waved back to the lead lap. Now remember, Richie on old tires. Everybody behind him has gotten fresh right sides somewhere since lap about 147. I think everybody has been in. Richie has not been in to get fuel either. He said at the start he had enough to go the distance, but how many extra laps can he go? All right, the lights are out. Everybody stacks back up. Here we go. Pace car is in. Green flag flies. 2 to go. Richie clears at the line. And Tuma now into 2nd. Don Warren in third. Kevin Bruner is on the march up to fourth. And here they come out of four, white flag. One more time around. Does Mark have enough to get it done? Oh, Mark gets a ball out of two. Through 3 and 4, and Richie Joplin does it again. He'll win at Langley, leading every lap. Mark Dantuma manages to make the comeback to second, and what a night for Don Warren. Moves up to third. Kevin Bruner also up 8 spots into fourth. All right, let's talk to our top 3, starting with second place, Mark Dantuma. Mark, you know when the white flag flies, you can bump him going into turn 1.
I couldn't get to him. I was trying, but I just couldn't get there.
It was definitely an eventful night, and strategy was quite interesting, seeing some of you guys waiting so late to get tires.
Yeah, I tried to break it up a little bit even, but I kept getting a little bit of damage, so I had to keep going in for that. So just kind of worked out that I cycled back up there at the end.
Well, it was definitely an eventful night. You definitely had one of the fastest cars, man. A heck of a run tonight. Congratulations.
Thank you, Doug.
And I do not see third place Don Warren available. So let's talk to our winner, Richie Joplin. Richie, I don't know what your team is putting on the tires, so you have grip through that whole race. Man, that was a heck of a run.
Yeah, I finally got the right front warning at the green-white checker. It said a green-white checker, and I'm like, there, and it said, your right front is wearing out. So I'm out 50% on my right front. My right rear, because it started getting a little free, you know, I had to keep it more straight, you know, in the turns. I guess that's a little practice on dirt's helping me out a little bit, but it's at 26% on the right rear.
Holy cow. You have no tire left.
So, yeah, I mean, I was right there on the edge of it blowing out, I think, and crashing. But, yeah, I mean, it's a good setup. Outlier setup company. I mean, it's experimental. I done some few changes on it, and it held up.
Well, it definitely did. I am really surprised those tires lasted, but man, a heck of a job. Great job saving the tires. Congratulations. Another dominant win tonight.
Thank you, Doug, and thank you for broadcasting. Thank you for Navy Joe Coffee and Outlaw Wheel Repair, and also Outlier Speed Company for the setups. I'm enjoying this.
I bet. Great job tonight, buddy.
Thank you.
Well, Richie Joplin so far has just dominated the season. Folks, don't forget, come back here in just a few moments. The Unicorn will be trucking USA. You definitely want to see that. Until then, we will see you guys here in a few moments, and we'll see you again this weekend. Looking forward to it. Have a great night, y'all.